The two teams will have a rematch Tuesday night in New Orleans to battle for the 7th seed in the Western Conference playoffs. If the Lakers lose Tuesday, they'll have one more chance to make the playoffs. They would play either Golden State or Sacramento on Friday. The Clippers will meet up with Dallas in the first round. Game 1 is Saturday at Crypto.com. The major concern for the Clippers is Kawhi Leonard's right knee. Leonard has missed the last 6 games. Scottie Scheffler won the Masters. He finished 11 under. Tiger Woods finished last among the 60 golfers that made the cut. Woods ended up 16 over 304, his worst performance in the 26 years he has played at the Masters. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley.
And I'm Compton Mayor Emma Sharif.
You have no doubt been hearing promos and expert conversations on our various weekday shows and downloading details at KBLA1580.com about our climate justice campaign, which is now in full effect.
The city of Compton is pleased to partner with KBLA Talk 1580 to celebrate Earth Day 2024 as we serve, share, and help our city shine.
And KBLA Talk 1580 is just as excited to join the city of Compton as we broadcast live and bring our KBLA delegation with us to help clean and beautify our community, and you are invited to join us.
Come meet us on Saturday, April the 20th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at 212 West Cypress Street in Compton as we fan out to clean up our city.
The first 50 KBLA listeners to hit our website at KBLA1580.com will receive a free KBLA tee when you join us on Saturday morning, April 20th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at 212 West Cypress Street in Compton. Now, no show, no shirt, but sign up at KBLA1580.com right now to help us clean up Compton as part of Earth Day 2024.
We will see you on Saturday, April the 20th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at 212 West Cypress Street in the city of Compton to do our part for Earth Day 2024.
We are KBLA Talk 1580, caring about the climate, caring about the community, cleaning up Compton. Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavismiley.show.com. That's thetavismiley.show.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour,
there's a bay up in Alaska, oh so cold and clear, a home for creatures great and small till the pipeline appeared to bring us fuel to heat our homes and gas for us to drive. Now the sea is black with oil and all the fish have died. So who's to tell us why? There's a forest in Brazil, sheltered by the rain, where the tall trees made the air we breathe till the cattle barons came and cleared the land for grazing, 50,000 trees a day. Now the Amazon's on fire, and that's progress. they say, but what a price to pay. Who's lying in the garden? Who's holding the sea?
Alice Randall joins us in hour 2 to talk about her groundbreaking country music career and her book, My Black Country. The book also has a companion album of the same name, celebrating the black female experience in country and folk, and features the songs of Alice Randall recorded by some amazing artists like Reese Palmer. The track you just heard is called Who's Minding the Garden, an original, of course, Alice Randall track recorded by Reese Palmer. I look forward to talking to Alice Randall today in hour 2. And speaking of Alice Randall, her country music contributions are vast, but her backstory is the thing. I have interviewed just about everybody in my broadcast career, but rarely anyone with a backstory quite as fascinating as Alice Randall's. You want to hear all about that in our second hour today. I look forward to it. In our third hour, 2 more conversations as we continue to focus our attention on Black Maternal Health Week. Up first, a conversation with Heather Clark, president of the American College of Nurse Midwives, about the history of black midwifery in the U.S. and the disparities in black maternal health. On the B side of hour 3, the historical significance of black doulas in bringing joy to childbirth. Safia Monroe will explain the difference, which I just learned preparing for this conversation, the difference between a midwife and a doula. On the backside of hour 3, we celebrate in our third hour today Black Maternal Health Week. But in this first hour today,
are you, as we sit here right now, aware of any threats to U.S. troops in the region?
We are staying vigilant to exactly that potential threat, but we have not seen any attacks on U.S. troops or personnel in the region or our facilities, and nothing to report to this morning, but we're going to obviously watch that very, very closely.
Just to get a sense of how this came together, did the United States have any back-channel communications with Iran, if only to deconflict the airspace over Syria?
I would just, not in terms of the operations, but I mean, obviously in the lead up to what happened yesterday,
there were back-channel communications.
I would just say we made it very clear to all parties, including Iran, what we would do and how we would continue to defend Israel, and also how seriously we would take any potential threat to our personnel and our facilities in the region.
A lot of people watched what happened in the skies over the Middle East overnight, and they are wondering this morning, has this now escalated into a wider war?
I don't think there's any reason that it needs to.
But has it? Are we now in the midst of a wider war?
The president doesn't believe that it needs to move in that direction whatsoever, Kristen. What Israel demonstrated last night was an incredible ability to defend itself. Just their own military superiority was quite remarkable yesterday. I mean, very little got through, and the damage was extraordinarily light. And also, Israel demonstrated again, as I said, that they're not standing alone, that they have friends. So the president's been clear. We don't want to see this escalate. We're not looking for a wider war with Iran. I think the coming hours and days will tell us a lot.
But what's your response to Americans who see those missiles being intercepted in the skies overnight and believe that this has already escalated?
I would ask the Americans that saw what happened last night to take heart in terms of the military capability of their forces in the region, how they are defending themselves and defending our interests in the region. And also, I reiterate what I said before. Know that the president is working the diplomatic side of this personally. In fact, today, just a little bit later today, he's going to call the G7 together to talk about a diplomatic response here.
That is National Security Spokesperson John Kirby on Meet the Press on NBC yesterday. Some have argued, maybe you are one of those some, that the escalating Middle East crisis represents the early stages of World War III, given Iran's unprecedented counterattack on Israel over the weekend. Others maintain that Iran's slow-moving, thoroughly telegraphed retaliation was mostly performative, meant to send a message, and that both sides can now move to de-escalate. So, is it over for now? Or will Israel respond? And will the U.S. get pulled deeper into this? On the B side of this hour, we'll speak with Ryan Grimm from The Intercept and get his take on these questions and more. Plus, today, former President Donald Trump goes on trial in Manhattan the first former president to be criminally prosecuted. Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA, is accusing Trump of falsifying business records in the first degree, 34 felony counts, all of which are tied to the former president's role in hush money payments to the porn star Stormy Daniels. The Intercept's Ryan Grimm joins us on the backside of this hour, but when we come forward, we will commence this program today with Phyllis Bennis, director of the new Internationalism Project at the Institute for Policy Studies, talking about the crisis in the Middle East. You're listening, and I'm glad about it, to Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Hey y'all, Mona Swain here from Target's new YouTube series, My Cart is Full, where we feature Black founders and creators highlighting their connection to our community. As an actor and content creator, I love using my voice to inspire young Black women who look like me. When it comes to feeding my shine, seeing myself reflected in Black-owned and founded products at Target brings me joy. Together, we are Black Beyond Measure. Learn more at target.com/Black Beyond Measure.
Cookie wants to be a professional wrestler.
I'm Cookie Serratos and I'm 11 years old.
She also wants to win all the medals. That's why Cookie and her family make every day count, squeezing out her best with Go-Go Squeeze.
Okay, Cookie, let's break for a Go-Go Squeeze.
Go-Go Squeeze Fruit on the Go pouches are a nutritious snack made from 100% fruit with no sugar added.
Go, Cookie!
Because when you nurture your kids, you squeeze out the best in them. Squeeze out the best with Go-Go Squeeze. Not a low-calorie food. Products range from 11 to 13 grams of sugar and 60 to 70 calories per serving.
We used to argue about whose turn it was to clean the gutters, but then I had leaf filter gutter protection installed.
Wait, I told you Leaf Filter had free inspections and estimates and a lifetime guarantee.
Meaning we never have to argue about whose turn it is to clean the gutters again.
But I visited leaffilter.com/beacon first.
No, I did.
It doesn't matter who. Visit leaffilter.com/beacon to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off today.
See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
I feel occasional burning and stabbing in my hands as I age.
I sometimes feel numbness and tingling in my feet as I get older.
It's starting to get in the way of doing what I love.
At Nervive, we hear you, and we can help. Nervive's clinically studied dose of alpha-lipoic acid reduces occasional nerve discomfort in as little as 7 days with continued daily use.
Now that I know, I'm taking control.
Try Nervive Nerve Relief and say yes to healthy nerves. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis.
Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Busy news day around here. Let's get this party started. Please be joined now by the author, activist, and director of the new Internationalism Project at the Institute for Policy Studies, our friend Phyllis Bennis. Phyllis, good to have you back. How are you today?
Very well. Great to be with you, Tavis.
It's good to have you on. Good to hear your voice. Let's make the most of the time that we have here. I played a clip a moment ago of John Kirby on the program Meet the Press yesterday, NBC, trying to downplay this. But I asked a moment ago, let me start with this. There are those who say that this is the early stages of World War III. On the other side, just to oversimplify it, I understand, some believe we're headed toward World War III, and these are the early days. Others believe that now that Iran has responded in a slow-moving way, totally telegraphed way, that now both sides can commence a sort of de-escalation. Foreign leaders all around the world are encouraging Bibi Netanyahu to not respond to this, but to move toward de-escalation. Those are essentially the two thoughts. There are more than those two, but that's essentially the argument comes from both sides. Your take?
Well, I think it's certainly clear that this is a moment when there should and must be de-escalation. There has been an escalating process in the Middle East since the beginning of this current Israeli offensive against Gaza that has resulted in this horrific level of genocide, actual genocide, and starvation and famine now, as well as the hundreds of thousands of people that are having their houses destroyed, being forced out of their homes, and tens of thousands who have been killed by bombing. With all of that, we now are seeing escalation on a regional level, and this action over the weekend, the Iranian firing of missiles and drones against Israel, was very clearly, officially acknowledged that way by Iran, in retaliation for the Israeli attack on the Iranian embassy in Damascus, in Syria, about a week and a half ago, on April 1st. Mm-hmm. And in that context, the Iranians actually said, we're saying now this is done. This was our answer. You crossed our red lines. We responded. Now it's over. So now the ball is in Netanyahu's court, as you say, Tavis. And the danger is that, as we've seen throughout the period of the escalation that Israel has carried out in Gaza, Netanyahu is feeling completely capable, and there's been no consequences so far, for simply refusing what not only President Biden but all of the leaders around the world are saying: don't go back with another military response to this. You know, the U.S. is now claiming, President Biden is claiming, well, we won't support and we won't participate in an Israeli offensive move now against Iran, another retaliation. But by saying we won't support an offensive move, he's implying that we would support, the U.S. would support, and he's clearly comfortable with this, would support what would be called a defensive action. Mm-hmm. And the problem is there's no difference between them. You know, if Israel attacks now, there will be an Iranian response to that. And at that point, the U.S. will be at war with Iran. There's no question about that. So it's a very dangerous moment.
So there are, again, two ways to read this as I see it. Number one, that should Bibi Netanyahu decide to respond, he has a horrible track record of, as a matter of fact, I'm sure he's never heard the word measured or the phrase measured response. Nothing he does is ever measured. Look at what's happening inside of Gaza right now. So I can't imagine that if he decides to respond, it's going to be commensurate with what Iran did. As I said, I think it was largely performative. It was to send a message. I mean, I paid attention to this over the weekend and really spent some time understanding what Iran did. Understand this. They sent three kinds of weapons. One of those weapons takes about 8 hours to arrive from Iran to Israel. They told them 8 hours before it got there, it's coming, get ready to shoot it down. A second group of those weapons takes about 2 hours to get there, more than enough time to respond. The third weapon takes about 12 minutes to get there. Still, with their defense system in Israel, enough time to respond. This was totally telegraphed. So it's Iran sending a response, sending a message, but not trying to kill a bunch of people. And to your point, they've now said it is over. So
absolutely
the question,
right,
but the question is whether or not Bibi has the humility, the humanity, and frankly, as far as I'm concerned, the good sense to not respond, to push us into World War III. But there are those who believe that Israel, just given where it sits and all the enemies around it, that they cannot ever let anyone fire on them and not respond, because that sends the wrong message. I yield to you, Phyllis Bennis.
You know, the message that was sent by Iran even went before that first 9-hour process. They gave 72 hours notice to a number of capitals around the world, saying this is about to happen. And as you say, it was a small enough attack that was deliberately designed not only to be vulnerable to those anti-aircraft systems that work very well, but they also were aimed solely at military targets, hit a few of them very lightly, very little damage done. And as you say, the crucial part was no one was killed. There was injury to one child where there was shrapnel that hit a house. That was it. And that's hugely important, and that was clearly part of the Iranian performance. As you say, this was a performative action. And it's one of these situations that we're seeing now where Iran hawks in the United States, people like John Bolton was saying over the weekend, that this is an opportunity, that this should be what Israel views as an opportunity to take out Iran's nuclear arsenal, as if there was an arsenal. There isn't. There are no Iranian nuclear weapons. There is an Iranian nuclear program that's designed for producing power, etc. And the idea that he's promoting the notion that Netanyahu should now go and attack those nuclear facilities is so incredibly reckless, incredibly dangerous. And while it doesn't match what President Biden has said, Biden has talked a good talk of de-escalation and saying we don't need more escalation, the actions of the U.S. have been very escalatory over these last 6 months. This is all rooted in the crisis that's going on in Gaza. We can't separate the two. And in that context, it's a very dangerous moment because the Iran hawks here in the United States, as well as in Israel, are feeling emboldened and empowered by this. You know, this is their moment. This is their moment when they can say, okay, we're now with a prime minister who's more popular than he was just before this as a, quote, war leader. And it's ultimately going to be first the Palestinians who pay the price for this, because as we speak, the bombing of Gaza is continuing. The starvation in Gaza continues. Children are still dying. So this is all going on while now the world's attention is away from Gaza and focusing on the question of Iran and Israel. So it is a very dangerous moment in the region as well as here. And we have to look at that broader context of the Gaza crisis as the basis for the level of regional escalation that's been underway. The U.S. has said for 6 months now, we don't want this to escalate across the region. And I think that's probably a majority view here in Washington. But the actions of the U.S. in saying no to every other force, saying no to the Houthis and no to Hezbollah and no to Hamas, all of the forces that are opposed to the Israeli assault on Gaza, and saying nothing but yes to Israel. Yeah. So that's been hugely problematic because President Biden's words, which have changed in response to the incredible movement we've seen rising in demanding a ceasefire, demanding an end to the denial of food and medicine, etc., in response to that, there has been a shift in language, but there has been no shift in action, which means the U.S. is still providing weapons to the Israelis and not doing anything to make sure that there are consequences when they say no.
I got 5 minutes left. If you don't want to make the most of it and uncover a few more pieces that I want to get your take on, let me start with this. I've been at this a long time, as have you. We're in two different lanes, but we know spin when we see it. We know spin when we smell it. I played a clip from John Kirby, again, the National Security Council spokesperson, yesterday on Meet the Press, and he was trying to frame and trying to spin in answer to a question that we are not as yet and expect not to be in a wider war. I'm not sure I buy that argument. If you read the backstory to what happened over the weekend, there are now 16 countries, count them, 16 countries already involved in this in one shape or form. Don't tell me that we're not getting into a wider war. We're already in a wider war.
We are absolutely already in a wider war. There has been a war expanding across this region for the last 6 months. It has before this, but in this particular moment, it's been going on for 6 months. And this is something that is very, very dangerous. We heard from Senator Cardin, Israel has the right to defend itself before, during, and after any strike like this, and that Biden should lead an international effort so that Iran feels the pain. This is incredibly reckless talk, that there should be further escalation in this region where there is one nuclear-armed country. That's not Iran, that's Israel. This is a very, very dangerous threat to talk about escalation in this kind of a reckless way. And what we're seeing here, as you say, Tavis, is very important. We had countries from the U.S., the Brits, Jordan, other countries that were directly involved in shooting down some of these Iranian drones and missiles that crossed their own territory. We're also hearing that other countries have volunteered to back up Israel if this thing goes further. So this is a very serious threat of escalation. The calls for de-escalation are very important, and it is important that the Biden White House has been calling for de-escalation. The problem is the actions don't always match those words. Yeah. And until we get a clear understanding from the White House that it will not provide any more weapons to Israel, it's not going to be matching its words of calling for a de-escalation on all sides.
Let me ask you whether or not, and if so, to what extent this action by Iran, measured though it may have been, telegraphed though it may have been, slow-moving though it may have been, does it send a message to other Arab states? And if so, what is that message?
Well, I think the message to the Arab states in the region, the Gulf states in particular, that have been mobilized by the U.S. against Iran, this is a big goal of the U.S. regional plan here, is building up this Israel and Saudi-led anti-Iran coalition. The message from Iran, which was very explicit in the words of the Iranian ambassador to the United Nations over the weekend, was explicitly, we're done here and nobody else should get involved. So they're warning the Arab allies of the U.S. and Israel, the Saudis, the UAE, the other countries in the Gulf states, they're warning them, do not attack us. The Jordanians were very careful. When they shot down a couple of the Iranian drones and missiles, they were very clear, we're not doing this to defend Israel. We are doing this because you have missiles in our airspace. That's not acceptable. So we're bringing them down now. But they were very clear that this was not designed to mobilize in the context of an Israeli-led coalition against Iran. Iran was very clear about its motivations, that this was something that was retaliation for a clear violation of international law when Israel attacked its embassy in Damascus. You know, the Vienna Convention makes it illegal under any circumstances to attack an embassy or a diplomatic venue, which is exactly what Israel did. And it killed 2 top generals and 5 other significant officials of the Iranian military. So that was a very provocative action that Israel knew would require a response from Iran, and that's what we're looking at here. Does it stop here, or does this incrementally or dramatically, either way, lead to greater escalation?
I've got a tight 60 seconds here. I'll give it to you. If Bibi Netanyahu does, in fact, decide to respond, whatever that looks like, what's Joe Biden's next move?
Joe Biden says he will not support any offensive move. The problem will be there is no way that we can expect him not to support Israel in the tit-for-tat that would follow that officially offensive move in something that would be called defense but would be as offensive as could be, and the U.S. would be right in there.
Nothing like splitting hairs in Washington parlance. But I digress for now. Phyllis Bennett is author, activist, and director of the New Internationalism Project at the Institute for Policy Studies. Always happy to get her on the phone in moments like these for her insights. Phyllis will do it again, sadly, I suspect in the days ahead. Yeah, but I always look forward to it.
Thanks very much.
Appreciate you coming on the program. Thanks for your time. When we come forward, we'll continue our conversation about this with Ryan Grimm. He's the D.C. Bureau Chief for The Intercept. Anxious to get his take on this as a provocative piece out right now from The Intercept about what happened over the weekend. Of course, Donald Trump is right now in day 1 of this trial in Manhattan. We'll talk about that. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The judge presiding over Donald Trump's hush money trial will not recuse himself. Judge Juan Merchan started the historic trial this morning by denying Trump's request that the judge recuse himself from the case. Merchan said Trump is using a series of inferences, innuendos, and unsupported speculation to make his claims for recusal. President Biden is making his case for re-election to black voters. The president addressed the National Action Network, which works on racial justice and civil rights issues. Biden said that under his administration, black unemployment has dropped to a record low. More black Americans have health insurance, and the number of black-owned businesses is rising. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
True Green is the easiest and most affordable way to get a beautiful lawn. All you have to do is water and mow. And to top it off, when you sign up for an annual plan by April 20th, you get one application free. Call or visit TrueGreen.com today. Restrictions apply.
You know that Big Bargain detergent jug is 80% water, right?
80% water? I thought I was getting a better deal because it's so big.
If you want a better clean, Tide Pods are only 12% water. The rest is pure, concentrated cleaning ingredients.
Ooh, pass me the intercom thingy.
Attention shoppers, if you want a real deal, try Tide Pods.
Don't pay for water, pay for clean. If it's gotta be clean, it's gotta be Tide Pods.
Water content based on the leading bargain liquid detergent.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers will spend an extra 2 days in New Orleans after beating the Pelicans on Sunday. The win assured the Lakers of the 8th spot in the play-in tournament. The Pelicans are 7th. The two teams will have a rematch Tuesday night in New Orleans to battle for the 7th seed in the Western Conference playoffs. If the Lakers lose Tuesday, they'll have one more chance to make the playoffs. They would play either Golden State or Sacramento on Friday. The Clippers will meet up with Dallas in the first round. Game 1 is Saturday at Crypto.com. The major concern for the Clippers is Kawhi Leonard's right knee. Leonard has missed the last 6 games. Scottie Scheffler won the Masters. He finished 11 under. Tiger Woods finished last among the 60 golfers that made the cut. Woods ended up 16 over 304, his worst performance in the 26 years he has played at the Masters. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Pick up the drum.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power!
Hey, what are you doing up on the step stool?
About to clean these light fixtures. The whole family's coming over, and if there's even a speck of dust in the house, my abuela will find it.
Here, I got a Swiffer duster to help with that.
A Swiffer what?
A Swiffer duster. It has this cool extendable handle that reaches 6 feet to get high and low, with fluffy dusters that easily trap and lock dust.
So, no more step stool?
No more step stool.
Easily trap and lock dust from hard-to-reach places with the Swiffer duster. Love it or your money back.
Psst. Hey, I have a secret. I use Secret Whole Body Deodorant because more than just my armpits stink.
Oh, can I use it where my bra rubs under my...
Oh, yeah.
And what about down there? You know, my...
Totally. 4 out of 5 gynecologists would recommend it. So I tried it, and now I get 72 hours of freshness from my pits to my...
Ooh, I love that it's a spray.
Me too. And it comes in sticks and creams too. Go get your Secret Whole Body Deodorant.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
Please be joined now. Please try that again, Tavis. Pleased to be joined now by, I'm so excited to talk to him, the Intercept's DC Bureau Chief, Ryan Grimm, who is also a host of the podcast Deconstructed. Ryan, good to have you back. How are you, sir?
Great to be here. How you doing?
Man, if I complained, I'd be an ingrate. But I am troubled by these times that we find ourselves in. Just had a fascinating conversation, insightful conversation with Phyllis Bennis about what happened, what is happening in the Middle East. I want to make the most of the time I have with you. I don't need to color this much more for you. I just read the piece out now in The Intercept about this notion of the spin that we continue to get, including from John Kirby yesterday on Meet the Press, that we are not as yet in a wider war and hope not to get into one. Y'all ain't buying that at The Intercept, are you?
I mean, does this look like a wider war to you? Let's see, who's involved in the wars right now? Iran, France, UK, US, Israel, Yemen, Palestine, Jordan, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey playing a little go-between between Iran and the U.S. That feels like a pretty wide war to me. I don't know about you, though.
Why then, I'm not naive in asking this, why then does the Biden administration keep spinning it this way?
Well, I think nobody wants a wider war. And so if they can speak it into existence, then everybody would be happy. Now, I will take a rare opportunity to give Biden a little bit of credit for at least so far fending off an Israeli response, because there was a moment, as the Iran attack was unfolding, where the far right in Israel was promising that their immediate response was going to be unprecedented in its ferocity, and it was going to mark the date as one that would go down in history for the cataclysmic and catastrophic response that they would be delivering. Biden did get on the phone with Netanyahu and told him, take the win. Like, you knocked everything out of the sky, take the win. And the U.S. will not be supporting an offensive attack against Iran, and they have not launched one yet. So we can take maybe some small victories there, because Iran was responding to its own consulate getting hit in Damascus, and Iran had said, we're done with this. Like, we consider this over. There's been a fourth, and we're done. So now we could get what the Biden administration wants, which is not a regional war, if everybody just dials it back from here.
Yep. So I said moments ago, I repeat again, that I've never seen evidence of this particular Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu, taking the win. I love the phrase, take the win. But there's no evidence that Bibi believes in taking the win, number one. And as I said again, moments ago in this conversation with Phyllis Bennis, that there is this thought that Israel can never. I've been to Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Memorial in Jerusalem. Been there a couple of times, and it's a beautiful museum. It's powerful. It's arresting when you walk through it, and when you leave in that final hallway, that final gallery, there's a huge sign that says "Never again, never again." And it's arresting when you actually see that and you walk through that museum. And part of that never again is not allowing people to hit you and to not respond. So there's some who believe there's no such thing as Israel in this instance or any other just taking the win, unless and until they wipe out Hamas, which I think is impossible. But they don't believe in taking the win. They cannot allow history to record that any country hit them with over 300 weapons of destruction and that they did not respond. So I am not of the mindset yet, I want to be, that Bibi is going to take the win, Ryan Grimm.
Right. Now, the good news is that the kind of center-to-center right commentariat, establishment commentariat in Israel over the last day or so has been taking a more cautious approach. The far right in Israel is saying exactly what you're saying there, that we need a devastating response to this attack and wipe Iran off the face of the earth. But voices that often are calling for aggressive action are being much more cautious. The Iran attack, that scene in Austin Powers where he's on the steamroller and there's a security guard who's like, no, like that was the Iran attack. Like, they gave 72 hours heads up to the United States about the precise moment that they were going to launch this. And the U.S. sent back a signal that, this attack better be within particular confines or we're going to be, very upset. And then they send these very slow-moving drones over the course of hours. It really was Austin Powers and the steamroller, and gave the security guard the chance to actually, step aside. He didn't in the movie, and that's what made that funny. But in this case, they had the opportunity. So there is plenty of room, for the IDF to say, look at how, big and bad our military is with the help of, Jordan and the U.S., the UK, and France. We knocked all of this stuff out of the sky and then just take the win. But the problem, as you said, is not only, psychological, but it's also, the moment that this war ends, such as an ending could look like, given the fact that Gaza is now complete rubble, Netanyahu is facing the end of his political career. He's facing these corruption charges, and we have this bizarre situation where the guy's personal incentive is to hang on to power as long as he possibly can to escape these future corruption charges from going forward. And so it's in his personal interests just to keep this war going forever. It's also in the military's broad interest because they don't want a reckoning either with October 7th. They had a complete collapse on that day, total failure on their part. So they want that to be as far in the rearview mirror as possible.
Yeah.
And the way to do that is just to keep this war going and expand it.
Yeah. In that sense, Bibi Netanyahu reminds you of somebody here stateside who's doing what he can to hold on to power, to stave off that day that is coming, even though it may be in the distance. He's inexorably hurling toward that day where he has to have a reckoning with all the allegations, all the charges, all the indictments against him. So there's not much difference in some respect between Bibi Netanyahu and some guy named Donald Trump, who we'll talk about here in just a moment. But I'm glad you raised that because this is not often raised in conversation. And leave it to Ryan Grimm of The Intercept to raise it, put it front and center, and make us wrestle with it. So let's go. It is, and I've said it before on this program, of course, but it is more than troubling, beyond troubling to me, that in part, which I think this is inarguable, and you say it brilliantly and eloquently, it's inarguable that part of the reason why we are still in this is because of one man's personal political ambitions, and that is sick to me.
Yeah, it's really hard to talk about because it's so sick. You don't hear it talked about a lot in the media, although pretty much every commentator who follows this closely acknowledges it as a fundamental kind of background reality of this situation. And if you're only following it casually, right, you won't see it talked about in the news. But it is a fact that he's facing these corruption charges. If people remember the protests that were going on for about a year before this broke out, that was about this judicial reform that Netanyahu was doing, which was also related, critics in Israel said, to his own personal corruption charges. It was a way to put the courts, under the thumb of the political wing of the government. And so, yes, you have this insane situation where if it ends, it's good for the world, it's good for everyone, except it's bad for one guy. And I wish that there was some way that the U.S. could say, you know what, we'll give asylum to Netanyahu, and he can have safe passage to Florida, play golf, like live out his retirement. He's not gonna rot in an Israeli jail, but he's not gonna be prime minister anymore, and this war is gonna end. I think that might not serve the interests of the particular justice that is probably due to Netanyahu in this corruption case, and then also, more generally around what's going on in Gaza. Yeah. But if it ends the war, then I think people would take that win.
Yeah, I'm thinking of all the protests he'd be subjected to every time he shows up anywhere in Florida or any place else for all the thousands of folk he killed in this war. I don't imagine that I'm not sure the U.S. is where he'd want to be. I'm not sure any place in the world is where he'd want to be because I can't imagine he would not be protested time and time again trying to take cover in some other country. But it's fascinating to think about. When we come forward, speaking of the aforementioned Donald Trump, his first trial, day one rather, of this particular trial is underway in Manhattan. We'll talk to Ryan Grimm about it on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile, and the ones who get in early so everyone can go home on time, there's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZzzQuil.
ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZzzQuil nights. Explore our products at ZzzQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
More of the Intercept's D.C. Bureau Chief Ron Grimm coming your way right now. And so, it's finally happened. Donald Trump is on trial in Manhattan. He did everything he could to delay this case. And that day that shall come has come. He is the first former president to be criminally prosecuted. Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA, is accusing Trump, as you know, of falsifying business records in the first degree, 34 felony counts, all of which are tied to the former president's role in these hush money payments to the porn star Stormy Daniels. So, Ryan, many people thought this day might not ever come, at least not soon enough to get a conviction before November. This may be the only one of these cases that actually gets into trial with some sort of verdict before November. But what say you about this, that many people regard as the weakest of these cases, and yet every time I hear somebody say that, I think of Al Capone. They got him on tax evasion, but I digress.
Right.
Yeah.
The problem is, yes, it's a strong case to me in the sense that he did the thing. It really, it's pretty well laid out that he did all the things that are alleging here. It's weakest in the sense that, it's very unlikely that this kind of a case would lead to actual jail time. Now, he might, get himself put in jail by running his mouth at the trial. That's still possible, but that's a different kind of trial. But did you see the thing where he apparently fell asleep in the courtroom today?
Yeah, I read that piece.
It's like,
yeah.
I mean, some of these, on the one hand, it's a historic moment, a former president in a criminal trial. On the other hand, a lot of these procedural things can get pretty boring, but it does seem like, according to Maggie Haberman over at the New York Times, he was who wrote a great biography of him and knows him better than anybody, pretty much. He was slack-jawed and his head bobbing up and down. So maybe that's that's the approach the attorneys suggested he take to avoid getting any more contempt citations or winding up in jail. Just sleep through this, Donald, and we'll wake you up. We'll wake you up if we need you.
Yeah. Ultimately, does it matter? I've asked this question of others, but not of Ryan Grimm. Does it matter in this case particularly if it doesn't lead to jail time, and I suspect it won't. But does it matter if he loses this case, if he's found guilty? I mean, ultimately, to his voters, to anybody prepared to vote for Donald Trump right now, who's aware of everything he's up against, does it really matter in the end?
It's hard to see how it does. You know, you've got polls out there that will say, that have people saying that if he is convicted, that there's a certain portion that go from supporting him to opposing him. I'm curious for your take. I don't really believe those polls. I think those are people who feel like that's what they're supposed to say.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when people are taking a poll, they feel like it's a pop quiz, and they're answering like how the pollster thinks they're supposed to answer. And so they say, well, what if he's convicted of a felony? There's some portion of people who are going to be like, well, I think the right answer there is that, of course, I wouldn't support a guy who's a convicted felon. But once he's a convicted felon, he's not in prison, and he's still Donald Trump, and let's say this is a person who still hates Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Then then it's hard to see them moving away from him on that. You know, the same thing with, he got the civil trial, found him guilty of sexual assault, and that hasn't pushed his numbers underneath Biden.
No, you asked a question. I'll respond to right quick before we move forward with our final conversation in this hour. They may be lying, to your point, when they tell a pollster that, because they're expected to say that. You and I agree in that regard. But pardon my English, but even if they ain't lying, Joe Biden ain't the answer to the prayer for them. So even if they're telling the truth, it's not like they're going to vote for Joe Biden under any condition or any circumstance. So I digress. Our remaining moments with Ryan Grimm when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
So you just used bug spray in your home. Now what? Well, between the waiting and waiting for things to dry up and keeping your family away from the mess, it hits you. You could have used Zevo. Unlike other bug sprays that stick around, Zevo goes from kill to clean in seconds. Plus, it's safe for use around people and pets when used as directed. Zevo, people-friendly, bug-deadly.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right.
Y'all gotta try that Febreze car.
Just right, just right, just right, yeah. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency on low Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face. When it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah. Breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
The
The thing no one tells you about periods is that your flow changes every day, and so should your tampon size. Tampax has 5 absorbencies to match your changing flow. If it hurts to remove, go down a size. If it leaks, go up a size. Only Tampax has a leak guard braid to help give you up to 100% leak and odor-free protection. All-day comfort and protection for under $5 a month. Based on average U.S. consumer usage at manufacturer's suggested price. However, pricing is at the sole discretion of the retailer. Excludes 8-count pack.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and the Intercepts, Ryan Grimm. 3 minutes left in this conversation. One final point I think I want to get to with Ryan. So Ryan, Geraldo Rivera, who I've known for years, a friend of mine, but he and I got into it the other night on News Nation. He was hosting on the other night. Must have been whatever, it was Wednesday, Thursday last week. And we got into it. There are clips that are floating all around the internet of he and I kind of, again, getting at it. Because he suggested on the occasion of the death of O.J. Simpson, he went back 30 years ago and basically made this same argument that because the jury was overwhelmingly black, there was no way that that they were ever going to convict O.J. He goes on to say that if there had been videotape of O.J. killing these two people, these black folk on the jury would not have convicted O.J. Simpson. So as you can imagine, I was not standing for that. I wasn't having it, and we got into it. And my point was, how dare you suggest that black folk cannot sit on juries, listen to evidence, make informed and impartial decisions. Black folk convict people every day in this country on juries. Furthermore, we're the most forgiving people on the planet. When y'all come into black churches like Mother Emanuel or go into supermarkets like in Buffalo and kill us, many black folk forgive you before you've even asked for forgiveness. So anyway, we got into it. But I raised that because he then pivoted from the O.J. thing to the Donald Trump case and made the point that because it's in Manhattan and because that jury, you know where I'm going now, is going to be mostly black and brown, Geraldo argues it's going to be a black and brown jury, there's no way that Donald Trump can get a fair trial, as if these folk can't look at the evidence that appears to be overwhelming brought by Alvin Bragg that he did what he's alleged to have done, and we'll hear testimony from Michael Cohen. But Geraldo already starts to advance the argument that I suspect we're going to hear from Donald Trump when he loses this case, that it's these black folk and brown folk that did him in. Your thoughts?
You've already seen his team kind of preview that argument with juries in both D.C. and New York. Like for them, they don't count. Those are not his peers, and they can't be trusted to be impartial. This is a talking point on the right that is at the very top of the list, and you're absolutely gonna see it circulating with ferocity.
Yep. It's going to be fascinating because on the one hand, Donald Trump has got pictures, fake AI pictures, but pictures nonetheless of him hugging and loving on black people. And he keeps bragging about how well he's doing with black people. And yet, watch his people while he's out of one side of the mouth, he's telling black people he's the best thing for them. But the minute he loses this case, he's going to blame black people for his fate. So how he squares those two things, I have no idea, but get ready for it. You heard it here first from Ryan Grimm and Tavis Smiley. He is the D.C. Bureau Chief for The Intercept. His name is Ryan Grimm. Always honored to have him on this program. Ryan, thanks for your insights, my friend. All the best to you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
When we come forward, Alice Randall on Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The judge presiding over Donald Trump's hush money trial will not recuse himself. Judge Juan Merchan